This program is brought to you by realestate.com.au. Keep moving with Australia's #1 address in property.
Hey, thanks for being with us here on Business Now. Let's check out the housing markets over the weekend and across the country. 1,923 auctions. This is pretty strong. Almost 65% of those were sold over the weekend. Sydney, 641 auctions. The clearance rate here is just a tick under 60%. Let's go to Melbourne, 810 auctions and strong there. 73% of them were sold. Brisbane had 93 auctions and just under 56% were cleared. In Adelaide, 79 auctions, close to 65% of those in Adelaide were sold. In Canberra, there were 64 auctions and just under 69% were successful. And Perth, look at that, 7 auctions. Clearance rate there, not so good though. Anyway, let's bring in Flaherty, Economist with RBA Group. And many thanks for your time. Look, the Housing Industry Association last week reported the first increase in home sales in 4 years, but that was after the February rate cut. It might be a sign of things to come, perhaps.
I think it is a sign of things to come. We certainly saw a big increase in activity, particularly signs of buyer demand following the February rate cut. Now we have another cut under our belts. And if we look at the commentary coming out of the Reserve Bank, the door is wide open for further cuts over the second half of this year. So this is going to stimulate more buyer demand. Hopefully it will also help to stimulate more construction activity, which we desperately need.
Okay, but there's a bit of a lag always, isn't there, between, sort of when there's housing finance approved, when you get a housing start, and then when you get completed property. So the question is what happens in the meantime, because that's where suddenly we start to see, even over the weekend, these much stronger clearance rates, especially in Melbourne, but in other parts of the country as well.
Yeah, it is a very positive sign. And from the perspective of a developer, as you say, it is a long process to get a home approved and then going through all the rigmarole of that process before you can actually even commence construction. But the fact that we are seeing some recovery in home price growth in the markets that had been underperformers, and the fact that we are likely to continue to see growth across some of those stronger performing markets because of lower interest rates, is going to help ease the feasibilities for a lot of these projects to get ahead.
But it also shows, like WA, for example, a 23% increase in home sales in just the last 3 months. Sort of in Queensland, 8.2%. I mean, New South Wales, 2.2%. So, I mean, these are incredibly strong increases in sales. So it goes to show that some of the clearance rates, some of the price trends that we've seen in those states, that's the reason why they're so strong.
Yes, and it's also important to remember that it's not just buyer demand, but we know that when people are feeling strong about market conditions, they're much more likely to list their properties for sale. And of course, the number of properties that do sell is determined by the number of homes that are listed for sale. Now, we have seen selling conditions improve in most markets, and lower interest rates are a big part of that. And if we look at the clearance rates, I think that's another really strong signal. A clearance rate of around 65% is a very strong result. We have seen clearance rates pick up over recent weeks, and I think that's going to be giving people more confidence this winter.
So, of course, as you say, then there's also the government policy, which is going to bring more demand from first home buyers when they're capable of being able to get sort of basically government protection when they actually sign on for a mortgage with a 5% deposit.
That's right. But one interesting thing about this is that we're not going to see these expanded first home buyer schemes come in until the end of this year or early next year, most likely, which means that we know that there's a wave of first buyer demand coming, but we still have a period before that hits. So I think what this is going to do is it's going to drive up investment activity. And certainly we have seen a pretty strong rebound in demand from investors, so sales to investors specifically, who are looking at the strong prospects for capital growth from lower interest rates and the fact that they're going to have to compete with more first home buyers early next year.
Yes.
So it's creating a bit of an odd market dynamic, I think.
It's going to be fascinating to watch it. We'll keep in touch with you, no doubt. And Flaherty, many thanks for your time.
Thank you.